Hi, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of the Digital Loop, all the way from London. Yes.
Yeah, as you can see, for those who can who actually watch the show and not just listen to it, you'll see that for once we're in the same room, which is my office. So it's Google Hangout with ourselves.
Basically, I'm here in London for some meetings, and we look at the opportunity to actually record together instead of being in completely different locations. So I'm very happy to be here with Paul, both of us in one room, and today we're gonna talk about the phenomena of Uber. Not Uber just the company, but actually what it means for other industries. What we've been seeing is that there is this growth of, let's say, Uber for different services, Uber for different industries. And we think that this is something really interesting, a company that has become a verb. Now it's like, okay, let me Uber it. And little by little, it's becoming really, really influential, not only in the transportation and logistics sector, but actually we're starting to see a lot of different industries starting to create Uber-like products. So that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, actually, it's if you look at the history of the internet, we moved for a world that had no internet, so everything was basically stuff, and then it became more and more digital, and now we're basically coming back to a little bit of stuff. It's a theme that we've been talking about many times in the show here, but basically, and I think we said it last time or a few episodes ago, that you do something when you press a button and something happens in real life. This is a bit of the part of the Uber-ish experience, is that you can actually do stuff in real life with your mobile and other devices. And at the same time, the other part of it, the economics part of it, is it's an on-demand world. You basically get most of the stuff on demand. Not that nothing existed on demand before. A lot of services existed on demand. I live in London. You can get a lot of stuff on demand, but now you can get it on a push, on a button, on your phone. And this is a little bit, as Yvonne said, where we're going to look at it today. We're going to just go over a few other models that we've heard about, some fun, some more serious, and try to list them, not all, because there are so many. I mean, I was researching for this show. There's like billions of them. Many of them are obviously in the US, especially centered around San Francisco. So do not expect that every single one of the companies and models we're going to mention today will be available in your area. But I hope you're going to enjoy it. So
yeah, but also I think that it's important. One thing that I think it's important for people to understand, because I had a lot of meetings with different entrepreneurs or startups, that now is the trend. They want to build the next. It's like Uber for this.
Yeah, hence the name of the show, Uber for X.
Yeah, and something that I noticed is that a lot of people don't take into consideration the really important elements of the business model that you need to take into consideration before you start thinking about developing such a platform. For example, is this a service that is addressing a very specific pain or problem that happens often, or is a service that happens randomly? Uber it's really successful because people need to move from point A to point B all the time, and everybody has this need. But if you are trying to come up with a new service that is going to be, I don't know, delivering cat food, well, that may be a little more random, more often. But I have a friend that was telling me the idea of creating like Uber-like service for sharpening the edge of your skis. And I'm like, okay, how often do you sharpen the edge of your skis? Once a year.
Yeah, in terms of scale, I mean, there was, I think, I don't remember the name. I'll find it, and if I find it again, I'll put it in the show notes on the website, the digitalloop.co. But I think there was also a company that delivered snow shovels. You can actually remove the snow if it was snowing in front. Again, this is not something that happens every day, but it means the point here, it means that the efficiency that is gained through having an on-demand system in your hand, I mean, there's a lot of models can be touched. It doesn't mean that all of them will be successful. We're still in a trialing period. Everybody, like Ivan just mentioned, wants to try, or seemingly wants to try, to adapt the Uber model, the on-demand model, let's call it, to a wide variety of industries. And it will touch a lot of industries, whether we're talking finance, healthcare, etc. But it's true that not all the companies that exist, or the ones that we're actually going to mention today, will all be surviving the the harsh reality of, do you actually need to press a button to get cat food? But you know, that's the point. I mean, it's interesting to see how the efficiency, the on-demand efficiency allows you to go into very niche, basically to create models that couldn't exist before because there was no way to attain this level of efficiency.
So yeah, first thing, think how often do you need this service? Is this a service that is going to be, you know, a repeated service, or is something that is going to happen seasonally? It might be seasonal, it might be a great business, but you need to be aware of that. Second thing is, I think it's a good idea to look into areas where you know, customers are not happy with the current situation of the normal providers.
They could be lazy as well, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't want to move from my couch. I just want to press a button, something happens.
Yeah, but that could be an opportunity. And the second thing, the third thing we think is the hardest is try to identify how can you leverage the technology to really have an impact on the experience. One thing that we were talking about, the beautiful thing about Uber, the experience is great. You press 2 buttons, a car arrives, you sit down, takes you to your place, you go out, that's it. There is no coding, there is no checking, there is no additional steps that you need to do in order to get this experience. What makes Uber great is also the fact that, you know, there is a very short time of waiting. If Uber, every time you order an Uber, you had to wait 35 minutes, 45 minutes.
Though in some cities you have to, and I'm not, because here, do not take it the wrong way. We're not either like promoting Uber as being the master stroke of genius that will solve all humanity. It's just an interesting model. It has a lot of criticism, by the way, whether it's from, you know, the are the drivers employees or not. There's actually it's starting to be legal cases around this in a few countries. But the point is, as Ivan said, is that the whole experience has to be good. It's like Uber understood that the app is very well done. Okay, it's very slick because, as you mentioned, they want to give us a brand, but it's simply very well done. And as you said, you have a car pretty quickly. You don't have to input. You don't have to have cash with you. Your card is already in there, so everything is set up that you just press a button, get into the car, get to destination, press another button to rate a driver, and you forget it. And then you get an email with your invoice. And that's a bit the idea. It simplifies the experience, thus makes you happy for, even if it's a fleeting moment. I'm not saying that it makes you happy in general in life, but for a fleeting moment, you can have access to a car. I said not all cities because in some cities are maybe not as big, or are new cities, you might not have a lot of cars on the road. Where if we talk about Uber, I tried in Geneva, there was a single car that was 30 minutes away, but that was the very start, the very inception of Uber. In Tokyo, I think there are like maybe a dozen cars at the beginning, so it was all limited to Shibuya, which is very central, so similar. But again, that's not the point. Because that's their model itself. The point here is how you make the experience satisfying and happy for how you create happiness. I know people overuse that sentence, but I think it works. The other thing that I would say about Uber that made it also something special. And I didn't realize that at the beginning, because then, you know, after Uber came out, there was a lot of competition. There's still a lot of competition, whether it's for car hailing or if it's taxi services. Uber has this thing, this God view that they call, so you can actually know, you can see the map around you, and you can see a little dot in real time where the cars are. It's very actually satisfying because you have this kind of feeling to be in some kind of control, and you can tell, and you can see the car coming to you when you actually ordered it. Because I've tried some other applications where you can also like hail a car by pressing a button, but with the absence of that, so for some reason you're like unsure if the car is actually coming or not, if it's far or not. You have a less control of the experience. It is less satisfying. So this is part of the customer experience that Uber understood pretty quickly. Funny story, and I think I mentioned that in the last season when I was in Rio de Janeiro. I tried an app which also hails you cabs this time, and there was this God view, so you could see where the car was, and I could actually see that the car was making too long to come to me because it was picking other people in the way. So it was, I don't think the driver had realized it, but I think, yeah, the experience, the customer experience, how you create that brand experience that makes someone happy, even if it's for a fleeting moment, that's actually very important.
So if you're thinking to develop a service on-demand mobile service, You need to take that into consideration. Quality, really, really important. Price, different services. I mean, Uber has it in a way that you have different services. You have Uber Black.
Yeah,
you
premium
have the very premium Uber Pop. Probably, I mean, for that it works. Probably if you want to implement this model into a different industry, maybe having a low price could be a big deal, and you need to take that into consideration while developing your business model. And I think that the biggest factor is understanding. Again, we've been talking a lot about it for a long time. Mobility. The fact that the smartphones is not a phone, but actually is the remote control of our lives. We can do and we can accomplish so much with these devices that if you want to build a service based on this model, you really need to understand mobility, and you really need to understand how this can have an impact on your users and how your service will have a positive impact on the user experience. So that's what I think.
Do you have any fun examples to mention? I mean, in a car, so we don't limit ourselves to Uber. There's Lyft, which is not available outside of the US. I think they bought Hitched, which was another one. They just dropped. They were very famous because they had a pink mustache in front of each car, which they dropped because that's also the hurdle about scaling and about the brand experience. They were seen as a bit too, what's the right word, hippish or something that was. It seemed cool at the beginning. It was maybe not cool enough when it grew beyond the foundation of their customer base. People were like, I don't need to have a mustache in front of a car, and I don't need to bump the driver at the end to say thank you. So, but there are other models in each country. With taxi cabs here in London, you have like tons of apps that deliver that model. Halo is a very famous one. But do you have outside? I mean, outside of the pure car hailing applications, what kind of apps?
Yeah, we found some really interesting cases. For example, there's a service called Doctor on Demand, which basically, of course, if you're having a heart attack or something, you don't want this, but basically is you have an immediate video visit with a doctor, and it's a certified physician. So it's not just, a random person, but actually it's a doctor that if you have some symptoms and you want to check, instead of going to a hospital and waiting 3 hours for a visit or something, you actually get this service and you might be able to get a visit really quickly.
Yeah, I've seen two others, because you mentioned one, I've seen two others. For those who are watching, I'm actually reading my iPad because I took some notes. There's one called Medicast, which has house calls, so you can have a doctor come in. Exactly what you said, because there's many trying. There's another thing it was called, and I don't have it here. I think it was called Pager, where you could. It was also personal health care. I've not looked into the model, but to see that, obviously that same idea as Uber. You take yourself, the doctor works already, knows he's a certified physician, but you can play into the efficiency, into finding that maybe the doctor has extra hours, whereas if he knew that he could go to certain patients, he would actually do it, unlike waiting in his office for nothing because nobody will show up. So these services really are about unlocking the margins of efficiencies that were missing before, because there was no enough information to know, Ivan is sick and needs someone now, before Ivan would actually go to see someone or go to a hospital, whereas now there might be a direct connection through mobile often to actually create a deficiency. Other stuff, sorry. There's also, because it's a big debate and I'm not promoting it, but there's also medical marijuana that is coming. There's two services, at least I've counted in the US, because marijuana has been legalized in some states in the US. They also deliver you medical marijuana on demand. Is it always used for medical reasons? I'm not sure, but at least, again, efficiency, I can deliver something very quickly on demand at the right moment. Sorry.
And from marijuana, we got to dry cleaning. Something that we noticed, there is a company in the States called Purple Tie, which is focusing on dry cleaning. And basically, I think that's a very good idea, although I don't know how good it is from the scalable point of view. Right now, they're only active in the San Francisco Bay Area, but they're very successful. Like,
I think a lot of the services, the survival of a lot of the services will be linked to the scale of the city or the region they're in, depending on each business model. We have also here in London, I think 2 laundry services being launched, where you can just, somebody picks up at your door and delivers you back whenever you want. They work because probably a city like London is big, so there's enough scale, enough demand at some point that can actually make the system work. It's true if you go to a village, or if the distance is too far, so either if there's not enough customers around you and the distances between those customers are too far, that might be the end of the model. That's been the case for a lot of business models, by the way. I mean, there's a reason you can get everything already. Amazon delivers the next day, or even sometimes the same day in London, whereas it might not do that in a much smaller cities, because there's enough scale, enough already drivers on the road to actually deliver packages. So, but yeah, so laundry is obviously something. I don't use it personally. I have like 25 laundries around my place, but it's one service that could deliver. Others?
Home delivery, food delivery.
Oh, well, of course.
Food delivery is something that I think it's a very obvious market. There is one called GoodX, Do or Dash is another one. And again, these are services that I think everything will come down to the experience. If you are able to deliver great food, great quality, great price, on time, that is going to make the experience more better. But if this is the problem, when you want to expand and you want to grow, the level of quality has to be the same wherever you are. And this is something that I think could be a problem when we're talking about specific goods like food.
There's interestingly enough, there's one for fun I just want to mention. It's called push for pizza, and you can just press a button and have a pizza delivered. But I mean, if you think about it, this model already existed. You already have food delivery in a long time. But the advantage here is that you could do that as a slightly higher level. And it means that there's a lot of, let's take pizzerias, that do not deliver because they don't have the staff, or they don't want to invest in the staff. But suddenly you can create another layer on top and say, okay, we are only delivering food. We do not care about which food is being delivered, and we just go from, oh, you need a pizza from that place? Okay, so we're going to grab the pizza from that place and we're going to bring it to you, even though that pizza place might not have directly its own staff or own system to actually deliver you food. So that's one model. Uber actually has started to done, and I know people, because Brian Solis tells me always that I have a tendency to say Uber instead of Uber, so I do apologize for that. Uber Fresh has been starting, I think, in LA, where they actually, because Uber is trying itself to expand beyond the transportation of persons, but also transportation of goods. And Uber Fresh is starting, so they will deliver fresh food. It's a trial. It's in one area of the city. I think it's Beverly Hills and other parts of LA. So, but that's interesting to see that also that they do not. So Uber itself is an infrastructure company. They think themselves an infrastructure company and not as a car company, for instance. This is what I believe makes them so attractive to so many investors, and probably also so successful, is that they see themselves as an infrastructure company more than a car company. So coming back to your example of food, you probably could see models where people say, we just deliver stuff from point A to point B. It can be from food to cat food, you mentioned earlier, to even parcels, everything. So that could be something that works too.
Yeah, another example, and this is a good example where it shows the difference of pricing could be a big factor. There's a company called BloomDat, which actually delivers flowers. And in the States, there is this company called 1-800-Flowers, I guess, which is like the biggest player, and it's very, very successful. If I remember well, they had Super Bowl ads in the past, like they're big. But this company is doing very well because their prices are relatively low, a lot lower in comparison with the 1-800-Flowers. And they are doing very, very well. And again, it's a matter of you need something, you press 2 buttons, and you get it. So again, this is an interesting case as well. I don't know if you have other examples.
Yeah, I have a few others. I mean, I'm not going to mention them all out of time. There's one in the UK, Desk Beers. So if you like a beer, I mean, they have to curate beers and deliver them to your desk. So that's a fun one you should try, because we live in the UK. I live in the UK, so I wanted to mention that one. But to go a little bit further, because all these applications we mentioned here have a direct relationship, or seemingly direct relationship with the customers. There's a B2C models, but we're already seeing some B2B models where the same gains of efficiencies are being built. So I'm thinking about, obviously, the transportation and shipping business. So I've seen apps where there are a lot of so I want to have a shipment made from point A to point B. So in the US, I think I've seen 2 apps, 2 services where actually they find the efficiency in truck drivers. The truck drivers are there. They might not be fully utilized, and say, oh, they can deliver extra stuff. So you can actually direct have a direct interaction and find delivery containers. And one that I find very, very interesting is in the freight shipping. So, these massive boats that you see on the, I mean, you might never have seen them, but you've actually seen maybe on YouTube, these massive boats that deliver stuff, for instance, from China for hardware towards the US or Europe. There's similar stuff exists when you can just really B2B. I need to get my freight from one point A to point B, and I get through a service like that. So the efficiencies gains are really, really massive.
Yeah. Well, I guess we can continue going over. There's a lot of companies, a lot of industries, but I guess the point that we wanted to make, because we need to wrap up, is the fact that developing a marketplace that connects, people that can deliver a specific product or service with consumers that need that specific product or service. I think that this is just the beginning. Our friend Jeremiah Ouyang has been talking about that this is the next step in the evolution of social media. Social media moved from sharing media to now the collaborative economy, where people are sharing products and goods.
Right.
And now it's not only products and goods, but it's also services. So really exciting times. There is a lot of opportunities to happen, but it's also the risk that a lot of people think that Uber is worth $40 billion, and we're gonna do it's crazy. It's easy. I'm gonna do the next Uber for, I don't know, cat food, and then surprise, it might not work. Nothing against cat food. It's delicious, but my point is,
is it?
My cat loves it. The point is, identify an important and frequent
a pain point
need, a pain point,
yes,
and really work on the three elements that we mentioned: quality, the price, and the experience. And this is what I think that is going to be really, really, really important.
Correct. And B2B. And on this, guys, so I keep saying see you next week, and I've said that twice in the past episodes, and twice it never happened, but we promise you this time that next week we'll be here. So see you next week, Ivan, and see you next week, guys.
Bye.
Godspeed.